If you've never flushed your water heater before, or it's over 5 or 6 years old, you're probably going to want to start with a thorough drain and flush like we're going to show you in this video. Manufacturers recommend that you flush your water heater at least once or twice a year, depending on how much sediment you have in your water supply. All you're really going to need is a bucket, a water hose, and a flathead screwdriver. If your water heater is electric, cut power at the breaker panel. If it's gas, like this one, turn the thermostat on the bottom of the water heater to off. Then follow that gas line back and shut the gas valve off. Now we're going to shut the water off coming to the water heater. That's going to be on the cold side. If you look at these pipes coming up off of the water heater, most water heaters have these red and blue plastic pieces on top that tell you which is which. Blue is for cold, or it may have hot and cold stamped into the metal up top. If your water heater has none of those indications of which is which, you can always grab the lines coming off, and this one feels warmer. So whichever one is colder, that's going to be the cold water supply. Follow that line up until you come to a valve and then shut it off. Next, we want to attach the water hose to the spigot at the bottom of the water heater. And run it to a floor drain, sink, or in a bucket, or outside if it's long enough. Right now, if you open the valve at the bottom of the water heater without opening a hot tap somewhere in the house, it's going to take much longer to drain the water heater. So go find a hot tap in the house and open it so that we can relieve that pressure and it'll drain faster. Okay, once that's done, we're going to open the valve at the bottom of the water heater and drain the water out. Now we wait for it to drain out. The reason that we're draining all of the water out of the tank is that we want all of the sediment that's floating around in the tank to either come out or settle down on the bottom. One of the downsides that I see of the basic water heater flush is that when you don't drain all of the water, every time you turn that cold water supply back on, it churns up any of that loose sediment and it doesn't actually flush it out. It just takes a while for the loose stuff to settle back down to the bottom, and by then you're usually done. A more thorough drain and flush is going to actually get as much sediment out of the water heater as you can. After the water's pretty much finished coming out, we're going to actually turn the cold water back on. Inside the water heater, there's a tube that directs the water downward, and the force of that water will help agitate and break up any stubborn sediment that's on the bottom. This is what's going to help ensure that we get as much of the sediment out as possible. I'm going to grab a bucket. The reason is because I want to be able to see what comes out next, because we've got all the water drained. The only thing that's left down at the bottom is in theory, is the sediment. And so I'm going to take my hose, put it in the bucket. The next step, while the valve is still open, we want to turn the cold water supply back on. We're going to run it for about 20 or 30 seconds, or until we see the water start coming out of the water hose again. Once we see water coming out of the hose, count to 10 and then shut the water back off. 15. Repeat that process until you're seeing clean water. As you can see, we got way more stuff out of the water heater doing the thorough drain and flush, more so than we got by doing just the basic flush. And the thing is, we did the basic flush yesterday, and so it's not like this had time to build up a bunch of stuff from the time that we did the basic flush. And I think the biggest difference is what we talked about earlier, is when a lot of this is sand. And so when the cold water comes on, it just poof, it kind of floats around in there and it doesn't have a chance to settle at the bottom, and you can't get that stuff out. So we're going to put all this stuff away. We're going to relight the pilot light, get everything back up and going, and wrap this thing up. Make sure the spigot at the bottom of the water heater is closed and disconnect the hose. Make sure the cold water supply is back on. Go make sure you have the hot taps open so that you can purge the air from the lines. Turn the gas back on. We need to relight the pilot light and set the thermostat back up to heat the water. Turn the power back on, and then watch for leaks. You can get one of these caps that you can put on that will stop dripping. Even though this is something you can do yourself, if your water heater's never been flushed before, you may feel more comfortable leaving this particular project to a plumber that you trust. Thanks for watching. See ya.